Good morning, everybody. Morning, Don. Can actually see a few people joining us that I haven't seen on a webinar with us before. Does anyone want to comment and tell us whether this is their first webinar with MPAQ? Okay, first time for Nicole. Welcome, Nicole. Great to have you here joining us. And good morning to everybody else as well. Thank you all for joining us for this webinar this morning. Just as always, we are recording the session. Oh, first session for Penny too. Welcome, Penny. Yeah, we are recording the session, so we will send out a link afterwards so that if you do miss anything, you have to skip out, anything like that, you can rewatch it all and you can still check out all the comments that have come in and everything like that. My name is Summer. I'm one of the member services and communications coordinators for MPAQ, and today I'll just be moderating the session. During today's session, we're going to be speaking with Taylor from Podium, specifically about the implications of a pandemic on doing business. So with government restrictions, social distancing in effect, everything like that, obviously for plumbing businesses, it's a little bit differently, works a little bit differently to say how it does for us working at MPAQ. But working with customers obviously requires massive amounts of coordination. And we want to talk about how plumbers can keep employees on jobs and sales coming in without tying down phone lines or having to see people in person, basically. So at the end of the session, we will take some time to do a Q&A. So if you do have any questions throughout, just pop those into the chat, which most of you have found, but if you haven't yet, it's on the right-hand side of the screen there. If you don't want to make it a public question, that's totally fine. Down the bottom there, you can select to send to admin and it'll just pop up for me so that not everybody sees it, but totally up to you, whatever you want to do there. So that's about enough from me. So today's webinar, as I said, we are joined by Podium, and it is presented in partnership with Podium, who are a corporate supporter of MPAQ. And Taylor, good morning. How are you today?
Doing good. Thanks for having us on.
No worries. Do you want to, just to start off with, before we do get started, do you want to tell us a bit about yourself and about Podium as a business?
For sure. Yeah. So again, my name's Taylor Cutler. I head up marketing down here for our Australian office. We're actually headquartered out of the United States in a place called Lehi, Utah. But we opened up our Melbourne office almost 2 years ago at this point. So it's been pretty awesome being down here. Just to give you a little bit of a heads up, so Podium, we are a interaction management platform, which basically enables plumbers, electricians, tradies to communicate with all of their customers through pretty much every single channel you can think of, whether that's Facebook, text messaging, Instagram, whatever, email, and be able to assign those conversations out to different staff members, things like that, as well as the online collection of reviews for their different online listings. I'm also joined today by my colleague, Logan Taylor. I've been pretty lucky that Logan just lives just down the street from me, so he's here in my home office. Logan is actually working day in and day out with plumbers in the actual Queensland area, so I'm glad to have him on. Why don't you say hi, Logan?
Hey guys, good morning. Happy to be here.
So yeah, we're excited to go through this presentation with everyone.
Awesome. So just so I can clarify, it's Logan Taylor and Taylor Cutler.
Yeah, a little confusing.
I just realized that. Awesome. That's great to hear more about you guys. And yeah, I'm excited to hear your thoughts about how our members can manage their customer journeys today. So yeah, I will hand things over to you guys.
Awesome. All right, thanks, Summer. So yeah, today's title is called From Search to Sold, How to Keep Business Coming In When People Aren't Going Out. Now, it's pretty obvious to everyone that we've had some pretty massive changes, and it does seem like there is some light at the end of that tunnel. We keep hearing from the government that, you know, some restrictions might start being eased, and here in Australia, we've been extremely lucky compared to a lot of countries with the amount of cases being pretty low, which is pretty promising in opening things back up. However, the market has forever changed. Even when a lot of these restrictions start getting pulled off and not as restrictive, you know, this is the new normal, and that's something that you need to be able to adjust to. People are forever going to be a little bit more hesitant about having someone they don't know personally in their home. You know, who knows if your technician maybe is a carrier of something like this, right? People are still really protective of their families, and there are new protocols in place. You know, if you, for example, want to go to the grocery store, they're only allowing a certain amount of people in. You know, you see the same thing with if you're going to the dentist now, you can go to the dentist again, and you can be the only person that's in the waiting room. They can't have any more people than a single person. And there's, I went to the dentist yesterday, and they had to do everything manually just because they couldn't use the drill. Because it would, you know, possibly shoot aerosols out, and so if I was infected, that could possibly infect other people. So these are things that, even though we'll see an easing restrictions, it is the new normal, and the businesses that will thrive are the ones who are able to adjust to that, right, and make it like what they're completely used to working with, for not themselves and their staff members, but also for their customers. Now, this is the other thing about customers, is that there has been a massive impact on the economy, and I'm sure everyone on here is well aware of that, right? Consumer confidence is at a 10-week low, and it might even go further. Even if we get past the idea of the pandemic and, you know, actual public safety, the impact on the economy has been massive, and it can only, you know, there's not really a huge sign of relief from this, right? But we need to be able to adjust so that despite those things, that you're the plumber that your customers or your potential customers are going to choose, right? You need to make sure that you're able to stand out above those, because people do still obviously have needs. You know, pipes still burst, things still happen. And this isn't, you know, being a plumber isn't necessarily something that you go out for fun, right? It's usually because there's some sort of need.
What I would say to that too is, you know, if somebody has a plumbing issue, that's potentially thousands of dollars out of their own pocket if they don't have somebody immediately come and resolve that issue, because it's never really a convenient time to look for a plumber, unfortunately. But that means that this is an absolute necessity. People are at home, they're using their utilities more than ever, so they're having more breakages, things like that. And when they do need a plumber, what they're going to do is just simply look for the most trusted one, right? And gravitate and instantly latch onto that plumber in particular, based on a number of things, and one being a reputation. And Taylor will hit on a couple of those things as well.
Yeah, no, the thing about being a plumber is that you're kind of competing in a perfectly competitive market. Now, what do I mean by that is that as a plumber, or let's just say you're a tradie, you know, you offer some sort of repair in the home. People don't know that you are a better plumber than your competition, right? They simply don't know that. In their head, there's a problem, and then there's a way to fix it, and that's it. And so the reason I bring that up is that you are pretty much solely competing with you know, the plumber down the street based off of the experience you're giving to your customers. Now, this stat here, you know, wasn't something new with the pandemic that came out. This came out last year, that customer experience will overtake price and product as a key differentiator by the year 2020. Well, we're in the year 2020, right? And so that is simply the fact of the matter, that it is more important than simply just the price and the product itself. And that is even talking about retail goods, right? Things like that. So in a service industry where you are not selling somebody a physical good, but rather a service, this is even more relevant to your industry, that you are providing that really good customer experience, that people are judging that, and people are looking at that based off of your online presence. Now, what does a good customer experience look like, especially in plumbing, right? Well, across the board, any business, it's very, very convenient, it's frictionless, and it's efficient, right? So let's talk about e-commerce for a second. Now, I know nobody on here, or if there is somebody on here, it's probably only one or two people, run e-commerce, right? But everyone on here probably has used e-commerce at one point, right? We have sites like Amazon, eBay, Etsy. We have food services like Uber Eats, Deliveroo, right? And these different online e-commerce services that we're giving has changed consumers forever, where people have this Amazon effect, where they have this expectation of things being so convenient and easy, but they're taking that experience they're having online and expecting it from an offline business. I mean, in a world where you can live, where you go to a website, you start typing in the name of a product you want. You don't even have to, finish your thought before it guesses what you're looking for. Comes up, there's a single click, and then 2 days later, it magically shows up on your doorstep because it already has your information saved, everything like that, where it's that easy. And then people have that experience, and they expect that same thing to happen at a place that has to be a physical good, right? I mean, having people expect something like that out of their plumbing isn't necessarily realistic. However, it is what they're expecting. And by being able to tailor your business to that, you're going to see a lot more success with working with customers and having people come back because of that experience of being so easy to work with. I don't know if you have anything to add here, Logan.
I would just say that, the same thing is we're all consumers. And we probably have the same processes and the same expectations that we believe our customers do. And so it's super important and critical to what Taylor said, is to modernize the way that we are doing business in accordance with these other, shifts that we see in the industry. And it's absolutely possible to do that with your business. Even if we're driving a horse and buggy to work still, we have ways that we can leverage, modernizing your business to adapt to meet new consumer expectations.
Perfect. Now let's continue, talking about this convenience economy. So in the customer journey, before somebody, from beginning to end of them working with you, you have to think about what are those key touch points where you can make your business more convenient. So let's start at the beginning, right? Where do most customers start their customer journey before they even come into your business? Well, 88% of consumers consult online resources before making a buying decision, right? 96% of Australians use Google to find products and services. So that's not any different with your business. If they have a problem, the first place they're probably going to go is a search engine, and it's 96% likely going to be Google, right? So you want to make sure on sites like Google, Facebook, wherever they might be starting that journey, that you are showing up in that search, but you're also showing up in a good way where you have a good online presence, right? Now, that's everything from your website to every single listing or anything that somebody could find possibly about your business online. That's something that you need to cover. So let's look at this customer journey, right, of where you can reduce friction, right? So first we have that discovery phase of how are they finding you, online reviews, when they're considering you, when they're looking through your website, you need to make sure it's so streamlined that they find what they need as quickly as possible, that it's not covered in clutter. All the way from making the purchase and to re-engaging those people into the future, right? How can you make that as easy as possible for your customers? So hopefully by now everyone kind of gets the point, right? That being a convenient and efficient business to work with is going to be critical for making your business stand out, especially amidst the current situation where everyone's using more digital channels than they ever have before. And that's honestly because they're being forced to. They can't just drive down the street and look at things like they used to be able to and walk door to door and go into businesses. They're forced to go online. People are spending way more time online than they ever have. I work with publishers day in and day out, and there hasn't been a single online website that I've talked to that hasn't had a massive increase in website traffic. So you got to think about your online presence, right? This is where you really need to start making that investment, because of the fact that's where your customers are going to find and work with you. All right, so let's talk about now, how can you actually manage those customer touch points digitally, and where they're at, and what can you specifically start be doing? So the first thing that you want to do is you want to increase lead flow to your website, right? You don't want to be tying up phone lines and be talking on with people on the phone all day. You want to make sure that you are driving as much traffic as you can online where people are digitally right now. Now, what are some ways that you can do that? Well, first off, let's talk about search engines, right? And how do they work? Logan has a lot of experience with that with plumbers up in Queensland, and kind of understands that process of when somebody goes online, what are they looking for, and how are they making that decision?
Yeah, so what I'll say is just right on with what Taylor said. And I think we can all relate to this whole conversation because we all buy products as well. Whether we're talking about making a purchase with a plumber, an auto dealership, a jeweler, a dentist, this entire process is the exact same. And we're going to really quickly latch onto the person or the business we feel that we can trust, even more so than ever due to COVID-19. And we better believe that people are still Googling looking for a plumber because they're at home and they're having plumbing issues. And Google reviews has a huge impact in these relevant searches. Like when people search plumber near me, right? If you guys want to do this on your own, I'm confident in dropping their name. Like, Gold Coast Plumbing Company is a partner of Podium, right? Dane over at Gold Coast, really, really cool guy. Seen some awesome success. And if you look at his reputation on Google, he has some stellar reviews, and he's now capturing a huge volume of people doing these Google searches due to that. And so it's been incredibly impactful, and the reach out or engagement with customers due to this reputation increase is pretty significant.
Now, this is all going to something called local search optimization. So I'm sure everyone on the call before has heard the term SEO, right? And in the past, I mean, search engines have been around for a long time, right? 20 years almost at this point or so. And it's not something that's new. Optimizing your business to be found in that search isn't a new concept. However, it's become this thing where it's this magical, oh, I need it, but I don't actually know how it works. I've heard of this agency that can help me with, SEO, but I can't really track if they're actually working or if it's helping me or whatever. And the biggest thing that you need to realize is there's a huge difference between organic search and local search. For a plumber or any local business where somebody's gonna be doing a search, best plumber near me or best plumber Gold Coast, wherever you might be located, that's the search that you need to worry about, because those are the searches that people are going to be making when they're looking for a plumber, right? That's where they're going to be going, and that's how they're going to be making that decision. So let's talk about how you can optimize for those local searches, right? So first off, you want to make sure you've gone through any online listing you might have, specifically Google and Facebook first and foremost, and then kind of, again, do a Google search on yourself, see where you can find your business. Make sure that you own those listings, because if you don't own those listings, that means that it's been auto-generated by Google or Facebook or some person on the internet, or somebody's gone through it and created that for you. And you want to make sure that you're the one that's controlling that content, that it has your phone number, has your physical address, right? Now, on those listings, you want to make sure you have good, high quality photos, because those that do see 34% more click-throughs than those that don't. You want to make sure you have really consistent NAP information. So that stands for name, address, phone number. So for example, if I'm Gold Coast Plumbing, right, and that's the way I name my business, I don't want my listing to say GC Plumbing, right? I want it to say Gold Coast Plumbing straight out and foremost. Same thing goes with address, right? If I'm located on 123 Fake Street, I don't want street, I'm either gonna have street spelled out or just ST period. Doesn't matter, just whatever it is, have it the same across all those different listings. And then, like Logan was talking about, the thing that you have the most control over and that changes the most and will impact your business the most on local search rankings is online reviews, because that's how Google is determining the amount of people that are using your business as well as the experience they're having. And Google wants to serve up the best results. In fact, if you're below a 4.0 star rating and somebody uses the search term best plumber near me, you will not pull up in the search at all. Not even on the second page, whatever. Google will automatically filter you out based off of that key term best. And last year, best, the word best was the #1 trending search term on the internet. Now, reviews do a lot more than just help you on local search, right? They also are a big part of the buyer journey, right? So 86% of consumers read reviews simply as part of the buying process. It's part of that discovery. Now, once they find different businesses, right, it obviously builds confidence. That's not anything new concept. Obviously, if you see a business with good reviews, you're going to trust them a lot more. But the other thing is that people need to be getting reviews on their businesses way more often than you think. A lot of people will fall into that trap of saying, hey, I got 50 good reviews, I have a 5.0 star rating, I don't need to worry about it. But 85% of consumers feel that reviews older than 3 months are no longer relevant. And that honestly is true. What if they've switched hands? What if you sold your business and it's another person running it and you don't have that same reputation anymore. And Google also feels the same way. You'll fall in Google search results if you're not constantly getting online reviews to come in. Now, I kind of want Logan to talk a little bit about the results we've seen of those who focus on improving their online reviews simply for the amount of people that come through to their business.
So the impact that Google reviews have in capturing these consistently is ridiculous, right? There's a reason why Google reviews is the most cost-effective way to drive in a higher volume of new customers and beat out competition. So these stats that Taylor's showing you guys right now are consistent with Podium's average business after 3 months. But home service within Podium, your vertical, continues to be our quickest growing and our most successful. So our home service metrics right now, just the average across Podium, there's 47 some odd thousand businesses that use Podium. 85%, well, after 3 months, your average business will see an increase in call volume of 85%. But in plumbing, the average is much higher. The average is 122% average increase in new call volume after 3 months of boosting your Google reviews. So that's more than doubling your total call volume of new customers inquiring off of Google search. That's pretty huge. And to transition, if I'm not a customer that would fancy calling, let's say I want to go to your website to suss out your services. I'm floored by the reviews, find myself on the website. The reviews will also create a huge flow of traffic increase to your website. So in plumbing, we actually see an 87% increase in traffic to the website. And it's compared to the average in 67 across all verticals with Podium. So you're getting a huge advantage and winning in a lot of ways just because you have a much more emotional connection with plumbers, because you are going to be going to the customer's house. They're going to be inviting you to their house, inviting that technician. So that impact that reviews have is with a plumber is significantly more impactful than like a jeweler or a dental practice.
Yeah, just like Logan was saying, right? This is an average across all of our businesses. So these stats are all Podium customers after 3 months of using Podium, the results they've seen an increase. And that's, we're completely attributing these things mostly to those Google reviews. And I love that Logan brought up that it's extremely more impactful for plumbers than these, which is huge, because these are big stats for anyone. So I can't imagine how much more traffic they start getting when plumbers specifically start focusing on their Google reviews. And again, this is just after 3 months of using a product like Podium to generate more online reviews, right? So, all right, again, I've seen a few questions come in. So what I did want to say, if we're going really quickly, and if you have a question on any of these slides, please feel free to type those in. We can come back to those questions during the Q&A, because we don't want to forget those good questions that you might have, just since we're going pretty fast. Now, once you start generating more traffic, right, to your listing, to your website especially, you need a really good way to manage those, right? Now, everyone has a CRM, a customer management system, whatever, but we need to make sure that we're handling getting those people even into your CRM in the first place, right? So what happens when they get to your website, right? You need to push those that web traffic into becoming a lead. Now, there's a lot of different ways to do that. Most people simply put a form on their website where they say, request a quote, contact us, whatever, and there's a form that they fill out. The problem with forms is that you have to put in a lot of information, and people maybe don't feel like they're necessarily ready to give you all that information and book a job, right? But they might have a quick question and say, hey, I have this little leak. Maybe I can do it on my own. Is this something I can do on my own? There's a lot of different questions they might have that you have the answers to. Now, the best solution we've seen in the past to help answering those quick questions is to have a live chat on your website, right? So kind of like how you see on the slide, bottom right corner of your website, you'd have something pop up, say, hey, do you have a question? Message us here, right? And traditionally what that would be is a live chat option where people message in and then they wait until you message back. And then the problem becomes is that you might have not any staff ready to message back to that customer. And so then they leave and they, and now they're gone. So you lost that lead. You drove all that traffic to your website. Now they're completely gone. Or let's say that they message in, but then they lose the internet connection. Again, they're gone. Or let's say you do have somebody on and they start messaging back and forth with some staff member and they get a lot of good answers, things like that. But, again, they have to step away and that chat ends, and now all that conversation history ends and you don't have any information on that customer. So there's been something that we've been able to do that's been really helpful in transitioning. I'll let Logan talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so web chat is pretty critical. Reviews are great, but it's just the first step in the right direction. We not only want to be the most trusted, but we have to be the most convenient business to work with. And that means recognizing that the bounce rate off of a website is ridiculously high. And if we have these live chat features, it's holding the customer hostage to the website. And if they ever jump off the website, we have nothing to chase them with. What we want to do is we really want to quickly convert this into a text message conversation. So that little widget will pop up once the customer clicks on that. It'll ask the customer to enter their name and their cell and the message they want to send. And it can be a random question that Taylor was, presenting earlier, like, hey, just have a basic question before they actually request a quote. They just have a question. They want to talk to a member of your team. And this chat widget will go immediately to your team. So your entire team will have their own individual logins, and they can all respond to this new inquiry that's coming off your website. This is a really hot lead. Somebody who likes your reviews, they're on your website looking for your service. And now it's the same way you prefer to communicate with a family member or friend, well over an email or a phone call. They can now text your business, and your business is now having a really intimate relationship with a brand new customer. So it's a very effective way to capture these inquiries. And if they ever jump off the website, we don't have to lose sleep because you have the name and cell number of that person you just inquired, and you can just shoot them a text or even call them. So pretty straightforward, but web chat will actually see an 11 times increase in engagement off of your website compared to a contact us form or request a quote form. So that's the idea, is we get higher traffic. We also want to get higher engagement through web chat.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a marketer. I think day in and day out, how can I get more leads to my sales reps? And if I heard that I could get 11 times more leads than what I'm currently getting, I think I would. I don't know what I'd do. I'd be really excited. And I think Logan might be even more excited than me. All right. Okay, let's talk about, now that we've kind of talked about, hey, this is a good way to get somebody's information in a really subtle way, and now you are creating leads, right? Because they are giving you their personal, phone number on this and creating that text message conversation that you can have that thing. But what are other, what is the best way to communicate with your customers, right? So talking about that convenience and being more efficient, the businesses that are going to be most successful are the ones who are able to move and pivot and communicate in whatever those preferred channels are. Now, again, I don't care what those channels are. What matters is that your customers like those channels. So whatever those might be, even if it's TikTok, right? And I think Logan has a comment on that later on. But if it's TikTok, that's where you need to be. You need to be wherever those preferred communication channels are for your customers. So here are some of those channels to focus on. So there's something called Google Click to Message. It's been rebranded as Google Business Messaging now, so you want to make sure you're on there. You want to make sure you obviously have a Facebook business page and that you are utilizing Messenger. So if somebody comes through to your Facebook page and they message you on Messenger, you don't want to just give them a call, right? Or email them back. If somebody's messaging you on Messenger, it's because they want you to reply on Messenger. The same thing with Instagram text messages. We talked about kind of web chat, but also text messaging. Now, here's a quick free tip. If you don't have Google Business Messaging set up, it's really easy. So basically what Google Business Messaging is if somebody Googles your business and your listing comes up on the right-hand side of their desktop or on their mobile device, and it has, it usually has like directions to the business, reviews, call a business, things like that. They've added a fourth button that you can enable where it's message the business, where they can message you directly in from your Google listing. They don't even have to come through your website. It's completely free. Here's the instructions on how to set it up. You just log in your Google Business Messaging and kind of type in a phone number, and Google will verify that with you. Really easy. If you have a hard time with that, let us know and we can help you guys set that up. So again, that'll be a good thing to set up. That's nice and easy and free. Again, Facebook is something you don't want to forget about. Facebook Marketplace, in fact, is one of the best places in the world right now to sell something. I really wasn't super familiar with it until just a couple of years ago. My wife uses it nonstop all the time. In fact, it's one of the best places to buy a car right now, right? It's one of the best places that dealerships have or success in selling a car. And it's the same thing with your plumbing business. Facebook is essentially another search engine. So just making sure you have a presence on there. They're massive. They're by far the biggest social platform out there. So making sure you're on there and that you're utilizing Facebook Messenger. But let's talk about text messaging again, right? 2/3 of consumers prefer to text their business specifically, right? Now, we've seen that more than 90% of consumers prefer to communicate with their businesses via messaging rather than a phone call or any other channel, right? but 2/3 of all consumers prefer text messaging. So it is by far the most preferred channel to communicate with. And I think there's a few different reasons why. I don't know, Logan, have you seen any like specifics?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a preferred method of contact. And I mean, if somebody were to call us right now, like my mom and dad from the States, they've already called me a couple times today, and I've had to snooze their call, send it to voicemail. I'll text them and I'll say, hey, mom, dad, I'm on a call right now. I'll give you a call back later. So I can text them, but I'm not willing to take a call. Right? Even with my own parents, and it's horrible. If they could hear that, I'm sure they'd be really disappointed in me. But your customers feel the exact same way, and that's just a preference for most people. Statistically, they prefer to communicate in a text message, for sure.
Yeah, and I would say that the reason that most consumers prefer to text over or message over any other method is the fact that it's so convenient, right? And it's really convenient for your business too. Think about it this way: how many unread emails do you have right now? Right? Probably hundreds. I always have a lot, and I do my utmost best to get through all those emails every single day because I really need to. But text messages, they have a 99% open rate. And the reason why is it's so easy. It's not too much information that's in there. You can open it when you want. You can respond when you want. The culture around it, it's not a big deal if you take 15 minutes, an hour to text back. I would guess that a large portion of the people on here have been texting back and forth during this webinar, but maybe they haven't been taking phone calls, right? Me and Logan are in here in this room, and I've seen Logan text somebody back in this presentation while he's presenting, right? Because it's that easy. Because it's that easy, right? And it's that convenient, and that's why your customers are using it, and that's why you need to do it. And again, this just goes back to the main point that you need to be as convenient and easy to work with, as streamlined as possible. Now let's look kind of at that evolution of communication with customers, right? Originally, people could only do business together face to face. And that was how it was done. Then, they started making it so you could, maybe send a letter on horseback and it'd go down the street, and people were able to, to do business maybe over the mail. Now, when the phone came out, I imagine that was pretty insane when businesses would be able to, talk to their customers without seeing them in person. I can also bet that there are plenty of people who said, I would never do business over the phone. Like that's absolutely insane. Why would I ever trust somebody over the phone? And plenty of businesses probably thought it was dumb to spend probably so much money on getting a phone line installed at their business to talk to their customers because they thought they would only do business in person. Well, I can guarantee every single one of those businesses is no longer a business, right? So fast forward a ton, 100 years or so, email came out, but now what the frontier of communication is text messaging, social media, and now more than ever, because of the current situation, is video chat. And again, it doesn't matter what these channels are. What matters is where your customers are and that you're also in there. And the thing that you'll notice is the common theme going along this line is whatever becomes the most convenient is what becomes adopted.
What I would say to that as well is, outside of just thinking what's convenient for the customer and what they prefer to do in texting, think about how many phone calls your business takes every single day, whether that's from a new customer or an existing customer. And a lot of these people might just be price shoppers. How nice would that be to eliminate a 10 or 15 minute phone conversation and just, really quickly sync up in a text message to send a couple messages back and forth to finalize that conversation, whether to determine they're a price shopper or to schedule the appointment really quickly and conveniently. So it saves you guys a lot of time off the phone. We understand the business's pain points as well, outside of just the customers, a couple different ones there too with texting.
Perfect. Okay, now there's a lot of different things you can be doing with messaging. One thing you want to make sure is once you have these leads coming in through your website, following these steps we talked about, you want to make sure that you're nurturing them. You're not letting them go by the wayside, even if for some reason, hey, maybe the plumbing job that they need done is something that's not immediate, but it's expensive, right? And, the wallets are tight right now, obviously, for everyone. And so you want to make sure that you're, properly using different methods to communicate with your customers and that you keep those leads hot, right? That you're nurturing them in the right way and you're communicating with them the right way, right? So there's a ton of different use cases we could talk about for text messaging. We have a lot of different customers that that are using our platform to communicate back and forth with their customers a lot of different ways. I'm sure they and Logan have more ideas on that, but there's some simple things you can do, right? Simply like scheduling and confirming appointments, right? Right now, with COVID-19. there's a lot of things that are concerns with people, and maybe you want to like say, hey, you know, our technicians are always wearing face masks that we replace every single day. Give them a little bit of peace of mind, right? That, you know, let them know of your processes, things like that. Maybe, you know, asking, hey, have you had any symptoms? Things like that. There's a lot of different use cases, but there's a lot of communication that needs to go back and forth. And those are all very easily done through text messaging. I don't know, Logan, do you have any other ideas about that?
Yeah, I mean, it just overall, I think it's a big time saver. And, you know, it's a preference for people to more quickly respond. Like, to go back to what Taylor said, I have like over 3,000 unopened emails in my personal inbox. And I try to stay on top of those. It's mostly because I get a bunch of LinkedIn notifications, maybe Facebook. But I rarely any unopened text messaging. And so it's just a much more effective way to communicate to your customers, also saving a lot of time. You know, even go to the extent of creating templates for reoccurring experiences you have with your customers to like send out an appointment reminder. You know, if we can even attach like marketing materials like PDFs, things like that. These are recent changes that we've made in our business for COVID-19. Like Taylor said, you can expect our guys with a face mask and hand sanitizer and maybe a friendly hello instead of a handshake, right? So just ways we can leverage that more effectively instead of a phone call. Yeah.
Right. One other thing that is really important to start doing is to collect payments in a digital space, right? Mobile payments are convenient, more secure, and provide a better customer experience. And again, that was before, you know, you couldn't shake hands with the person next door or with the people you're doing business with. They're just a lot better and more easy. But again, now in a scenario where, you know, people don't want to have any touch, you don't want them to hand you their credit card, right? You don't want to have to be lugging around the machine to have them tapping onto, right? To make it as convenient as possible means to be utilizing a lot of these methods, right? There's Google Pay, there's Apple Pay, right? There's even Samsung Pay. Adopting to these different payment methods that are easy and more convenient is going to be huge for your business. Now, one thing that we've started to do, and this is actually a little bit of a sneak peek for some of our customers who might be on here, but we're planning on having, and this is already available back in the States, but hopefully soon here in Australia, but being able to text your customers a payment link where they're going to be able to send you money all through text. And that way you're not having to call them up on a phone call and have them read out their credit card number. I don't think anyone ever feels very comfortable doing that. But simply sending them a text message that they can complete that payment, and it'll integrate with their Google Pay, their Apple Pay, or if they just want to put in a credit card information, makes it that much easier. And you don't have to be doing that in person, right? You don't have to have your staff or your technicians there any longer than they need to be. It's just a lot more quick and convenient and 100% digital.
What I'd say that too is you guys might already find yourselves sometimes chasing down customers who haven't paid you guys yet. Maybe they just have a bunch of junk mail like I do in my personal inbox and my email. They just haven't got to the invoice because they haven't seen it. It's not like they're trying to avoid paying you guys. Maybe once in a blue moon, you'll run into a customer who just is trying to avoid paying you guys. But in those situations, you might find yourselves texting those customers and say, hey, Logan, if you hadn't seen your invoices in your email inbox, if you could please pay us for the recent service. And you'll probably get some response due to that. Instead, we could just send them an invoice generated right there in the text message. They can pay right on that link there, get a copy of the receipt for their records, and you're good to go. So it's easier for the customer, it's easier for you guys to get paid as well for those services you provide.
Fantastic. All right. Now, again, another benefit of simply sending even a payment link right through a text message is now that they have your phone number, and having that textable phone number can be really easy. They can save you, and you can be the plumber, right? So instead of them having to go to a Google search and searching best plumbers near me, they already have that, and they have you in their phone, and they can just simply know that they can text you and say, hey, I have a question with this, how much do you think this would cost, whatever, ask for quotes. And then now you have a direct line of communication, and you have that entire history saved by using a text message conversation rather than another thing. Rather than restarting a conversation every time, you can remember right then and there in that same conversation, oh yeah, last time we did this, this job for them. And then you can even reference that. And again, now they feel like you're their plumber rather than simply a plumber to work with. Now, again, this webinar is meant to be really educational. We don't want to talk about ourselves, our own products too much. But again, Podium's an interaction platform. A lot of these different things we talk about are 100% things you can do on your own for free without using a platform. However, it would be a lot easier using a software to do a lot of these things we talk about from beginning to end. There are different products that Google that we provide to our customers along that customer journey to make these as simple and easy as possible. And with that being said, I think we're going to open it up to the Q&A. I know we've had some questions come through and maybe some private ones. So I'll turn it back over to you, Summer.
Awesome. Thank you for that. That was really great. We do have quite a few questions. Sorry, just getting myself situated again. Yeah, thank you for the presentation. So just to get us started, and we've had actually a few comments in the chat of people that already use Podium, which is awesome. Gil and Dane, and Dane's actually from Gold Coast Plumbing, so I don't know if you meant that when you mentioned Gold Coast Plumbing earlier, but they use Podium as well, which is cool. So my first question is text messaging. We use text messaging for MPAQ, and obviously it's always a concern to make sure that we're not violating anyone's privacy or we're not breaching any spam acts or anything like that. So do you have any tips on how we can ensure that we're not violating customers' privacy by texting them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a few different fronts on this, right? And there's some rules to follow. So just as a general blanket rule that I'll say to everyone, you want to make sure that text messaging is one-to-one, right? You never want to use text messaging in a scenario where it doesn't apply to a specific customer, that it just because like a blanket text I send out to all my customers, but it doesn't, relate to them and their experience, right? So one example of that is you never want to send out a coupon and say, hey, this weekend only get, a new water heater or whatever at 50% off or anything like that. That's something you don't use text messaging for. You can technically do that, but you have to have a very implicit consent opt-in list. And it's something that we honestly just don't recommend at all. And it's something that we don't use our platform for. However, there are things you can do in bulk. Like you can send out reminders or 6-month, checkups, whatever, as long as it's relevant to that person and it feels that one-to-one experience. Now, on the other side of things, like on a legal side, things like that, the reason text messaging has such a good open rate and is so effective is because it hasn't turned into what email is, right? Where you just get spam messages nonstop. And so we're really grateful that there are those rules in place. So as long as you're keeping those things to one-to-one, you won't run into that problem. And again, a lot of these different things we talked about today will have customers texting into you, right? Whether that's through the web chat tool or through having your textable number out there on advertisements or through Google Business Messaging, right? There's a lot of ways. And so by them doing that you have that consent to text them back, and it won't be an issue. Also with sending out online review invitations to collect online reviews, since they've done business with you, that's a transactional data. And so again, that's something that you're completely allowed to do. We haven't had complaints about that. So just avoid essentially advertising. Anything to add there, Logan, at all? No?
I think that about sums it up for me too.
Perfect.
Cool. And we've got a question from Donna. She wanted to know your thoughts on platforms like Yellow Online or those kind of things, because she's having some issues with it, really costly, obviously, and she's not getting any benefit back from it. So do you guys have any thoughts on programs like that, systems like that?
I don't think I would ever. I'm not going to talk crap on any other strategy to gravitate new customers. I would certainly appreciate somebody not talking about Podium, But I will say that there are more effective ways to go about doing this. So think about those statistics that Taylor threw out. 96% of Australians start their buying journey right on Google. There are plenty of other platforms we can advertise on, but we have to realize that even Facebook for plumbers, that is a very small fraction of the online traffic that's happening right there on Google. And what captures consumers' attention the most when they arrive on Google, that's what we have to change and what we have to adapt to. And we're going to see the greatest impact. That's why this process and the impact that reviews has is growing so quickly. It's really highly coveted in real estate, having great reviews, because of that impact it has directly where people are searching when they're looking to buy, and delivers the most compelling reason for them to trust you first. But yeah, there are a number of ways you can invest in getting new customers. I would just say, think of what is your return on investment? What are you guys seeing? Is it consistent with the amount you're investing or above and beyond that? Asking those questions is pretty important.
Yeah, I think I think maybe what you guys are referring to as yellow pages, I think, online. So like Logan was saying, when generating online reviews, there is a hierarchy, and I think this answers another question we've had. But like when you're focusing on generating reviews for your business, you want to think where your customers are seeing that. And so we always recommend, first and foremost, you take care of your Google reviews because they have that local search benefit on top of just being by far and away the number one place that people are finding your business. So take care of Google first and foremost before you do anything else. And then what we kind of say as a general rule of thumb is, hey, yeah, if you have bad reviews maybe on a specific platform, maybe just get enough to give you a good star rating. But since they're not affecting that local search, you don't have to have a high quantity of them like you would on Google. So again, take care of Google, get reviews there all the time, every single day. And then other, review sites that might exist, you might have a listing for, just try to make sure you have just, a good star rating is all you really need to worry about.
Cool. And another question was, do you have like a standard blurb or anything like that you can add to an invoice that would ask somebody to leave a Google review or leave a Facebook review?
Yeah. So I think Logan can talk a little more about this because he knows a lot more. But basically, what Podium does is allows you to have templates in every single text message you send, right? And so, for example, let's say you have a customer who you finish servicing and you have a technician there on site. They could use an app with Podium in this instance, and then just send through that text message invitation right to the customer at the end. We do have other customers who have certain triggers in effect where they can automate some of these things where, after they send the invoice or something like that. So there are templates, and each business is different. So a lot of businesses have different things, maybe different ways to make it more personalized. So we'd be happy to reach out to you and we'll give you some ideas on some what what that messaging can be.
Cool. So obviously we've spoken a lot about Google reviews, that kind of thing, but do you have any recommendations on like which online review site should be the main focus for having customers leave reviews?
Yeah, so kind of like we were just saying a little bit earlier, you want to focus on Google first and foremost for your reviews because, again, Google is where most people are starting that customer journey, but it's also the way that people are finding you, and you want to make sure you're pulling up. They have that local search benefit, whereas other review sites simply just don't have that. And again, you want to make sure maybe you just have good star rating on those other review sites, such as, like, for example, back in the States, there's even Yelp, things like that, right? Here, I feel like product review is pretty big, but I don't think that affects plumbing very much. Maybe, but Yellow Pages.
There are some popular review sites, but they just a kind of a shadow in contrast compared to Google. I would just kind of echo what Taylor said. Just try to do your best to make sure you have a good star rating at the very least, and Google will take care of the rest. Honestly, that's just how it works.
Cool. Kathy asked, can you suggest why companies on Google My Business with good accounts and reviews rank lower than others that have basic accounts, info, and no reviews?
Okay, yeah. So, Kathy, that's a good question. So let's say you go to Google search right now and you search plumbers near me or whatever search that she's talking about, right? There are a lot, and I mean a lot of different factors that go into a local search ranking. So the reason we talk about reviews being the most effective is because it's the only thing that changes, right? So for example, when Google when you do a search query, and let's say I'm in the Gold Coast and I do, plumbers near me or Gold Coast plumbers or something like that in my area, Google's going to search based off of those specific keywords. So for example, first and foremost, they're going to look, okay, where is this person and where are actual businesses close to their location, right? So let's say there is a plumbing business next door, right, that is really close to them and it doesn't have any reviews, but it's a lot closer than one 3 miles away that has amazing reviews, right? Now that one 3 miles away might still pull up in the search query because they have that good local search ranking, but that still can't trump the fact that they are physically not as close to the other business. So there's things like that can go into account that change. Again, Google looks at your business name, it looks at your physical location, and those are things that you need to make sure you have updated and correct information. One thing I didn't talk about that you need to make sure is you need to have your hours of operation up to date on your Google listing, one thing I've noticed that's huge in Australia is that, for example, there's Labor Day, right? Or there's another holiday. And in certain countries, or at least where I'm from in the United States, that's the same for the entire country. Whereas here, right, the Queen's birthday is a different holiday in Queensland than it is in Victoria. And same thing with Labor Day. And so that can be really confusing, and that can negatively affect you. So making sure that even holiday hours are up to date on your Google listing are massive. So again, there's a ton of things that didn't go into it that you need to take care of on local search rankings. But the one thing that changes, right, is your reviews and the recency factor. And so that's why you want to focus so much on your reviews for your local search ranking, is because it's the one thing that you actually have control over with your customers. Whereas a lot of those things are constant, right? Like you can't pick up and move your physical location of your plumbing business, just to get closer to that one time that somebody searches it, right? Or you can't change the name of your business on a whim. Whereas online reviews are the things that are changing constantly, and the way you can get a leg up on your competitor and pull up higher in search rankings.
Cool. Dane had more of a comment, but I'll just see if you guys have any info on it or anything like that. He said he was listening to Matt Jones from SiteShed on a podcast recently, and they were saying that Facebook may be dropping its recommendations/reviews of businesses soon. Have you guys heard anything about that?
Yeah, I haven't heard specifically. I mean, it wouldn't be surprising. So Dane probably knows. Dane's an awesome guy, by the way. But Facebook actually changed back in the day where they used to do reviews just like Google, right? Where it was a simple star rating and a comment. But whereas now they've changed to a simple yes or no. Do you recommend us? And then what they do is they take the average of those yes or no's, like a no being a 1 star and a yes being a 5 star, and that's what your star rating is. And so they've changed a lot. So again, Facebook is something that just care about maybe you having a good star rating is all. But again, you can also turn off if you don't want reviews showing up on your Facebook page. That's actually an option you have as the business page owner. So you don't even need to worry about those. Whereas you can never turn off your Google reviews. So whether you want to focus on them or not, they're going to be there. And so that's another even better reason, Dane, thanks for bringing that up, of caring about your Google reviews more than other sites such as Facebook. Again, Facebook reviews are important. They can definitely help your business out and you can focus on them, but yeah, they might change. And yeah, so I haven't heard that yet, but I wouldn't be surprised.
And Donna asked, does Podium work with ServiceMate at all? Does it link in with ServiceMate at all?
So we do have the integration is not super deep, but the extent of the integration right now is we can integrate like review invitations. ServiceMate can essentially communicate to Podium after a job's completion, send out the review invitation text message. My recommendation has been and will always be kind of Podium's thoughts on the matter is manually sending out the review invitations after the job's completion or after you have a positive phone call with a customer, just because you can be more selective. If you have a crazy customer who I feel like I'm pretty easy to satisfy, but I think I've been an unhappy customer once or twice in my life. And, what happens is we typically have the motivation to leave a review by a negative experience. And we'll go anyways online, even if we don't receive a review invitation, leave a 1 star. But we can automate the review invitations through ServiceMate. But ServiceMate, we're not trying to replace them, right? They will maintain and continue to be your database, your CRM. Podium will essentially be your communications platform. But we do have a way we can automate review invitations through ServiceMate currently. Great question.
Cool. All right. I think so far that's all the questions, but if anyone has any last minute ones, feel free to keep typing those in just while I kind of talk for a little bit. So thank you to Podium and to Taylor and Logan specifically for being here today and for giving us some really useful information. Actually, there's more questions coming in, but that's okay. Yeah, there's definitely some things here that even I need to look at for MPAQ, I think. So just one extra question. So Kathy just asked again, have Google paused posting customer reviews at the moment?
That's a good question, Kathy. So they did. So they didn't pause you being able to collect those reviews. They paused the posting on exactly like she said. But the good news is actually that's being taken back. So soon, if not now, those will post as well. But yeah, so basically when the whole pandemic happened, what they did is that you could still collect a review from a customer, and the customer could still leave a review, but they wouldn't post them publicly at the moment for a little while. But that's turning around soon. So yeah, good news there.
Kathy said, "Yay." Yeah, as I was saying, so thank you everyone for watching. We've had quite a few people in the chat talking about either how they use Podium already and posting some really positive reviews, which is awesome. Obviously, a lot of the tips that Taylor and Logan have spoken about today, they're not totally reliant on a platform like Podium, but it is definitely something that you can look into, and we will obviously be sending out some info about that. We've got quite a few people there asking for some contact details for you guys, so I'll make sure to get those over to you as soon as possible. And yeah, that'll all be in the thank you email that everybody will get after today's webinar. But yeah, if there's no other questions, we might wrap things up. So thank you, Taylor. Thank you, Logan.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. We're really excited.
Yeah, I hope everyone watching has gotten some useful information and guidance from today. I hope you all have a good day. Donna just said happy hump day. Yes, happy hump day, everybody. Let us know if there's any ways that MPAQ can be of any further of assistance. And thank you for watching.
Cheers. Have a good one.